Welcome back to Yeti. It's episode number 60. I've already missed one episode. I'm going to push through on this one. I'm going on 9 days with a virus, a sinus infection that has been going around town. And yeah, I've got it pretty bad. Okay, we're at Langkawi. Langkawi is the penultimate 2 Pro race of the season. It's got one mountainous stage. The rest are all sprints. I'm not going to be terribly well suited to either one, though, as our top guys are slated for other races or to be done for the season. And there's a lot of riders that are now at low morale, decreasing fitness levels for these last few weeks of the season. So the good news is very few riders have fitness peaks left at this stage of the year, and most riders are beginning that rapid decline of fitness levels, and so we can expect many of the favorites to struggle. But the favorites are still the favorites for a reason, and if we are similarly suffering in the same manner that they're suffering, they're still going to be better. There's a dozen top climbers with about a 79 or 80 mountain rating, and we don't have that, especially without Hagland here. And we lack our top sprinter. And our backup sprinter, who's been injured for a long time, is just coming back from that, and his fitness level is at 49%. So we will be very lucky to have him have a decent day out of the 7 potential sprint days. So heading into the final 12 kilometers, I've just set up my sprint train, but I'm paused for the moment. Groenland is going to have to be the guy, even though Shaw is the much better sprinter. Shaw, with a 48% fitness level, even though he's only got a -1 on the race day condition, is carrying -4s and 7s for everything that matters as he's bouncing back from the injury. Groenland, though, is at 99%. So we could expect him to be neutral or positive most of the time, and even though he's a much weaker sprinter right now, he's just better under the fitness levels. Team as a whole, though, did get an unfortunate draw, as we're talking about. A -6 expected became a -12 for the team today. A lot of that being Gotstein. The guy's on 99% fitness, so he's not one of the ones where you would expect something to be less. There are a couple, 2-3 guys on the team that are facing a scenario where they have fitness that's less than ideal outside of Shaw, and that's a couple guys that are at about 89%, so a little low, but not to where it should be hurting them. They just won't have bonuses. 7.8k. Let's get on with it. Start pushing on as we get out of here, and the road straightens up on us. Okay, final 5k. Set up well at the moment as we get inside these final 5k. I think we're going to be able to push on. It looks like we got a left-hander and a right-hander, and G ready to take over at 3.9k out. That's about 500 meters earlier than I want him to be, but at 2.8k he can start pushing on, bring us down to 2.2 for Shaw. No Groenland. No Groenland. Groenland caught in traffic, was not on Shaw's wheel. Shaw's already been swallowed up, and Vashek's going to take the win today. Kogut is the favorite. Kogut's got a 76 sprint and is the highest overall rated rider in the field that has this as an objective. And I have no riders with an objective, yet I scheduled one for every single race all year long. Don't know what happened there, why we have no objectives for this race, but it's not going to help us much. So I checked morale, and only 5 riders on the entire team have concerns with shortage of races. This is all 5 of them. And the -2s that 3 riders were expecting a day ago today is significantly worse, especially with some bad weather on top of it. And we're looking at impossible race day conditions. And I've had 0 notification, but Derek G is suddenly no longer at the race. I don't know what's going on, but our world is imploding for any chances of scoring much in these last few races at this point with how things are going. But the rest of the team outside of these 5 guys are happy. So second write-off race, and we've got 2 races left after that. where we should still have decent motivation, which is a reason for the huge negatives on the race day condition, other than fitness starting to drop for a couple of guys. But all in all, should be good for the next one, maybe. I know I have fitness peaks or objectives for both of those races for some riders, at least. This really highlights just how important it is for season prep, right? Race by race. What a difference it makes. Because honestly, on paper, our team is nowhere near the capability of the teams we go up against on a regular basis. I mean, we are only just now like getting a hint of competitiveness Continental Pro wise, let alone at any sort of other level. This race day condition being down like this is absolutely killing our competitiveness. This is a relatively weak field, and yet I can't do anything. I don't have my best guys. I mean, that is a factor as we go inside 3K, and it's very technical. We're going to accelerate out of there. Godstein, Shaw, Grunland are in place this time around, but Grunland, Shaw just can't handle the tempo that we're setting, and other teams are. And I mean, look at this technical finish, and yet here we are, which we're not even going to be 10th, are we? We're less than a bike length from winning this thing. Cardioli takes the win. Vashek is 4th this time. Kogut, the favorite's only 8th, and Grunland is 13th. 13th place, a bike length away from winning. How many races is that second? Plenty. How many races is that still a top 5? Nearly all. Skinny road like that and only be 13th. A bike length off, but that's where I'm at right now. We just lost Derek G for whatever unknown reason, and everybody's got these negative race day conditions. There was nothing wrong with the setup, with the lead out. The positioning was there, but the condition is just not, and without stamina they can't handle a simple sprint and end up a bike length short. The confusion behind Derek G is just growing for me. I'm very confused. So stage 1, he finished 29th in the stage. He didn't have some last second crash, which the game doesn't do anyway. So he finished. He was fine. I've had no notification. We're heading into stage 3 and no notification. Anyway, pertaining to Derek G, beyond the confusion of him leaving the race, he has finally, for the first time, started to see his age show with a decline in ability. His cobble rating clearly has gone down. I'm not sure what that one was, but he's gone from a 73, 76, 76. So we've lost 1 medium mountain point, 3 hills points, 2 time trial points, with little to no else change. So he is starting to get a little bit weaker, and he's picked up a lot of victories this season, a lot, but this is gonna hurt. This is gonna hurt, and he's upset right now too. Unlike the other riders from not getting enough race days, Derek G is upset for not getting a Grand Tour this season. He's had at least one each of the last 4 years. Well, he's had one each of the last 4 years, and 3 of them were the Tour de France, but that's because he rode for Israel Premier Tech, which is a team that has no business being in the World Tour because they don't have the quality riders for that, but they somehow have been there. He was 106th in the world last year. He's doing a lot better than that this year. World ranking is 32nd. 32nd, much better. Should have helped sustain his ability a bit longer, especially at just 31. I was figuring it was going to be next year before I started to see a decrease, but at the very end of this year, yeah, okay. He's going to end up hurting a bit in the last season. Looks like I should have done a 2-year deal and not a 3-year deal on him. I mentioned that 7 of 8 stages are sprints. The reality is 6 of the 8 are sprints. 1 is classified hills, but looking at the profile, this should finish with a sprint, hence the statement. So we've got to make sure we navigate this one and navigate these early climbs and hang on to set up a potential sprint, which makes this one of our best opportunities amongst the days, because the sprint teams aren't going to target it, even if those sprinters are around. So it could be the right kind of day to use a sprint train and actually do something. But bad luck, as always. Not always, but bad luck, like we've had in our last couple races at least, and one of the other recent tours. I'd say 3 of our last 4 races, we've had some pretty poor situations come out. So it does turn out, I told you, every single race this year, I've made sure that at least one rider in the field has it as an objective. Well, here we are, with an objective. It's Gutstein. Gutstein did have this race down as an objective. We just couldn't see it through his low motivation. He was getting a -1. And actually, he had an offsetting plus couple and was just really low on that motivation. Well, he started his fitness peak today. So he's actually got a positive race day condition. Expected. It's +1 expected, with the negatives tied onto it. What does he do? He draws a -4. The other guys are actually pretty neutral. Tippinati has a +1. I'd say overall as a group, we're looking at, Gutstein's negatives being what's holding us back. Five riders at the front had a 7.5-minute advantage when they came together, and yet somehow on a descent that they would have already fully been recovered on, they allowed it to come back to under 5 minutes. If I was in that breakaway, especially if I had a couple riders there, I would have kept pushing to maintain that gap, because at 7.5 minutes it was looking pretty good with the large amount of descending on the day that they could hold things off. But with very little push, Bora Hansgrohe and Decathlon have been chasing things down. Alpecin, Decathlon, and now it's down to inside 5 minutes and looking a lot less likely that breakaway's going to take that 3 minutes away, right? If they had been able to hold on to 2.5 of those 3 minutes that they've had just by pushing a hair harder, which they easily could have done with little to no consequence, because most of this has been descending, might have had a chance. But at 3.5 minutes, it's not going to happen now. 75k to go. Group's chasing him down. But with my lousy race day condition and no Derek G. I don't know if I've ever seen that. I don't know if ever once have I seen that. I didn't withdraw him from the race. No injury. He was in the race day 1. He wasn't in the race day 2. Well, we're already past the last climb of the day, though the official climb is still ahead of us. And we're definitely feeling it a little bit. There's still 2.5 minutes to the front 5. See? They're holding us off pretty well at this point. If only they had made a little more effort of that earlier. I think they would have made it. I think they would have made it comfortably. Okay, little recovery for us. Really important stage. I'm going to back off to try to help with that recovery. Peloton is shrinking down to 119. Alright, now we push on to hold position. A lot of negatives on that race day condition, making us weak. Minute 28 to the front 4 now, as they did lose one rider permanently. 22k. The 2 leaders, hold on, now that we're here, Grunland and Shaw are the ones that we should be protecting. Gutstein, why don't you rest and recover? Let's use the guys that are protected. 16k, it's a little late for the changeover, but it'll be okay on that part. We'll have Gutstein. No, Gutstein's got to lead them out. He's the closest thing to a sprinter without G now. G had a similar sprint rating and a much better flat. 13k to go. There's that front 4, just now getting reeled in. Imagine what they could have done with 2.5 extra minutes. we would have worked harder, it would have split up the peloton a bit more than it has. But I do think that I do think they would have won. I do think they would have won. Okay, here we go. Like I said, our best chance today is that the other teams, for one, have been facing this undulation and they're tired too. It's not just the end of the season for us. It is for all. But it handles your team differently than it handles the AI. The AI does not work in the same kind of manner. Inside 7K. There's the last of the undulation and the last kind of chance for the punchers to attack. Once you get past this, then it's a sprint finish. Shaw. Oof.
Only 5 kilometers left.
It's going to make it, but barely. Here we go. 99 effort from here. 4K. Zipinati when we round this corner. It's inside 3K. Soft sprint. Okay, Gutstein. Shaw barely hanging in there, but hanging in there. And Grunland at just over 1K. He's going to take off, but again, not the sprinter's day. He's not going to get it, though. He's going to hang on for a podium, I think. Outer red bar. Lawrence takes the win. Grunland gets second ahead of Ben O'Connor. Considering the huge negatives that we were carrying and how weak the team was looking. Podium. We've earned some points at least in this race. Might be the only points we get. The sprints seem a foregone conclusion that we are just not competitive at all. We might have to just get into that mountain stage and concede defeat on the other sprints. Gutstein having fitness peak isn't going to help. He's not one of the sprinters. Still 26K to go on the stage, and no, I have not given up, and I've only not given up for one reason and one reason only. I did have a second rider with an objective for this race, and they started their fitness peak too, and that is Grunland. The Grunland. Supposed to have a +1 on his race day condition today. He's drawn a -2, so we're still not looking good for conditions today, but I didn't know that when I clicked the damn button. I'm going to try to take advantage of a situation. Breakaway's already been caught. We are 3.3K away from an intermediate sprint, and Aiden Shaw with a -5. Out of his sprinter's job for a day like this, but he's going to try to lead out Zipinati and Abdullah, but here comes a whole bunch of other guys, 1.8K out. And so Shaw is going to lead these guys out here, and we'll see if Zipinati and Abdullah can get a top 3. I think Zipinati might have on that one. Zipinati got second. Shaw was third. So that's good. So inside the final 10 kilometers now with a sprint train set up, and Shaw is supposed to be leading us forward, and he has not made any progress through the field at this point now, which is 8K left. We'll have to back off. He is dead as a doornail today as far as riders go, capability-wise. So he's literally the first guy. Literally the first guy, just getting him out of our way. 5K. 4 riders. Yeah, we're looking pretty okay on that part, except for the fact that we do not have any sort of actual lead out right now. We are still looking well down compared to others. 3.4K out. Inside 3K. Starting to sprint with Abdullah. Gutstein, 2.2K is too early to do anything, but as we go inside, that said 1K already? No. There's the 1K. Come on, Grunland. Come on, Grunland. Get a podium. Get a podium. I think he's going to just miss that podium. Lawrence again. Yeah, and Grunland gets 5th. The riders themselves are well placed with all 5 riders inside the top 13 in the standings, as we've consistently finished high. We just aren't actually winning, right? Only a single podium on the 4 stages we've done so far. But stage 5 is the mountain stage. But my 2 climbers still have low motivation and -2 on their expecteds. 87% fitness means unless we get lucky with the draw, which Zipinati's had a 0. I think Abdullah's had a couple of -1s. I mean, they've been decent, those 2 guys in their draws. Shaw obviously isn't going anywhere. I mean, we're now at 50% for his fitness. He's still got a -4, and it's the combined very low motivation, which is due to the lack of racing because of the long injury that he had. So bad combination. He's not going to be much use to us. It's going to be a difficult one. I mean, we've got guys like Richard Carapaz at this race, Ben O'Connor, plenty of very talented climbers that are in that near elite, top 10 capable GC guys, but not winners of, for the most part. So it's going to be really difficult to even crack the top 10 on this one, especially when we look at the race day condition situation that we're facing for our two climbers. So it's going to really hurt the GC side, and all we have then is those stage wins that we're not securing. But points are points, and we need to continue making an effort. But the name of this episode is without a doubt going to be Where's Derek G? I'm going to have to split this into two parts, though, partially because the pressure, I can only do this so long, and it's getting to me. And timing-wise, I think it's just going to make more sense in two parts than one anyway. So that's going to do it for this one. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.